After an excruciating wait, and with the useless NAB Challenge matches out of the way, round 1 of the AFL season is here. For Crows fans, it kicks off on Saturday evening when North Melbourne host Adelaide at Etihad Stadium. The home side looking for their first round 1 win since 2009, and the visitors looking to topple the Kangaroos once again. The first bounce is at 6:55pm Adelaide time or 7:25pm in Victoria, and the teams for both sides are now in with some big inclusions. I'm your host Scorpus, and this is the CrowCast preview. Alright, with me tonight on the cast are two of the highest quality members from the Big Footy board. We've got Mr. Mystery Guest and Phoenix. How are you guys doing?
Hey mate, we're going well.
Yeah,
how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Hopefully this whole live system is working for those who are listening in on Spreaker and for the recordings later. Right, so we've got, like I said earlier, just a pretty big game against the Kangaroos coming up, and we've got some pretty interesting inclusions. So I'm just going to go through the teams really quickly. Compared to the NAB Challenge match for us, we have got out of Kyle Hartigan, Dean Gore, Jared Lyons, and Cam Ellis-Yolman. And coming in, we've got Brad Crouch and Rory Atkins, of course, the two players who had a little indiscretion and missed our last NAB Challenge match. They're straight back into the team. And for those who might not have been following the NAB Challenge matches as closely, compared to the semi-final that we played against Hawthorn last year, we've got out Patrick Dangerfield, Riley Knight, Cameron, Henderson, Hartigan, and Lyons. And coming in, we've got new recruit Paul Seedsman, as well as Jake Lever, Rory Atkins, Brad Crouch, and some players who haven't played an AFL game yet in Malira and McGovern. So that's very exciting. For North Melbourne, their last match versus Hawthorn in the NAB Challenge, they've got outs of Ben Jacobs, Lockie Hansen, Aaron Black and Joel Tippett, and ins of Robbie Tarrant and Sean Higgins. And compared to their last match versus West Coast in the, the prelim final, we've got outs of Hansen, Jacobs and Kane Turner, and coming in Luke McDonald, Jed Anderson, which is their new recruit, and Daniel Wells, so that's a big in for them. So, who do you think's going to win?
Crows. Okay, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps us up, but yeah, so there's a pretty big change, I think, that's worth discussing. That is, of course, Brad Crouch coming in. What do you guys think that he'll bring to the team?
Very excited to have him back in.
It's just a great inclusion. Great to see him back in, and hopefully he gets through. I mean, there's no reason to think he won't because he's got through the pre-season, albeit in the twos with little problems. Seeing him and Matt out on the ground together will be cause for celebration, if nothing else.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's the first game that Matt and Brad are playing together. I think that'll please both people watching the game and also people who have them both in their Supercoach teams. And
yeah, that's right.
So what about the major exclusion, that I think would be that Hartigan is not in the team and we're only playing Talia, Lever and Cheney as our key defenders. How do you think that's going to play out?
Well, it's interesting. I've been looking at the boards, and Wayne's World must be about up to his third box of tissues by now. But there's been a lot of conjecture about the matchups. My personal view, given the venue, is that I don't think we'll see North's three tools on the deck at any one stage. I wouldn't actually be surprised if Ben Brown drops out of the selected side. He hasn't been travelling that well. So I wouldn't mind betting that he drops out. Yeah. So yeah, personally, I like it, and obviously, the team defence mantra will get its first test, won't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of the interesting things, at least, just looking at the team sheet, is that, like you said, they've named Ben Brown on the bench, whereas they've named Petrie and Waite actually in their forward line. So I'm not sure whether they've actually, that means a lot for the game, but it's certainly, that's the way they've named it. Also, an interesting exclusion for North is no Ben Jacobs, which means that they don't have their designated tagger. I'm not sure whether that's because they don't think that our mids are good enough quality to tag or something, but certainly no one will be going to Sloan or Brad Crouch directly, I wouldn't think.
No, I reckon it's going to be a bit of a run and gun goal fest, to be honest with you. They've got Daniel Wells lined up at centre. Well, I reckon he'll play more minutes up forward than anywhere else. He'll probably rotate a bit with Jed Anderson, I'd imagine. And that's why I think we've gone shorter down back, because I think it's their mid to small forwards that are going to cause us the most trouble, and I think we've got the tools backed up. I'm a bit surprised about Jacobs. So you think they would have maybe tried to lock down one of our mids, maybe Sloan or one of our outside, or Brad Crouch for that matter, if he plays minutes?
Perhaps without Dangerfield, they're thinking that they can just match our midfield for attacking power, so they don't feel they need to go defensive because they think they can match us on the inside, so they don't need a defensive play and they can beat us defensively.
Yeah, I definitely think that probably has something to do with it, but I'm not sure that's the right strategy. They might end up with us slaughtering them, or at least hopefully they'll slaughter us. I mean, sorry, hopefully we...
Go on now. It's
wrong way
CrowCast,
around.
not
Whoops.
RooseCast.
Oh well, first one of the season. Got to get the cobwebs out. So what do we think of the two guys who I think are probably the whipping boys of the team, both being named inside in both McKay and Van Berlo? They've made it in. Is that the right choice?
Bit surprised about McKay, but again, I think it's indicative of the speed that they're trying to create. I reckon Lions has obviously had a better pre-season. So they're obviously looking for pace, and I mean Jared's good up forward, but we're pretty blessed for talent up forward. So I think that's what squeezes him out in the end.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of players that can play that outside role at the moment, with guys like Seedsman, McKay, Smith, Atkins, Malira, McGovern. Once even Tommy Lynch in there, that's a lot of guys who can rotate through the outside. And like we heard from McKay's interview in the other CrowCast just a couple of days ago, it seems like we'll be playing a bit more on the outside, which, should be good for us. I think that's where we struggled last year, and that's where we can really take our games to the next level this year.
What do you reckon, mystery guest?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was a big weakness last year, so I think it definitely needs to be something that we need to improve if we're going to counteract the loss of Dangerfield.
Yeah, definitely. So who do we think is the most unlucky to miss the side?
Lions for me.
The Lions.
Yeah. Victim of matchups and venue,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
probably Hardigan next.
Yeah, Hardigan as well. Hardigan and Lyons for me. Yeah, I think Jared Lyons his form throughout especially NAB 3 seemed to be pretty solid, so it's just a bit of a shame for him, and he'll be playing in the Sandful this week. So I just think we should go through some key matchups for the match, and one that obviously springs to mind is that we've got two of the best ruckmen in the competition or thereabouts playing in this game, in our own Sammy Jacobs and of course Todd Goldstein. Who do you think is going to win the ruck battle?
Goldstein's given Jacobs a bit of a touch-up over the last couple of meetings, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be interesting to see how Sam goes. Sam's been a bit subdued over the pre-season. That's going to be a very key battle, because I think, obviously, if it is a shootout, which it looks like on paper it's going to be, them getting first use is going to really put us under some pressure down back.
Yeah, and I think what you were saying before about, maybe Jacobs, we didn't see as much of him as we would have liked in the NAB Challenge. I mean, even though he wasn't super amazing in NAB 3, he did manage to get 44 hitouts, and I think that's a pretty good result for that sort of match where, the Gold Coast Suns just were, basically slaughtering us on the inside. and he was tapping it to all the right spots, and it just our inside mids weren't getting there. So I think if we can rectify that for this match, and we can get our inside mids like Sloan, we've got Brad Crouch back in the team along with Matt Crouch. I think when we've got all of those guys in there, as well as Tomo, that will really start to click with Jacobs, and yeah, hopefully we can at least nullify that matchup with Goldstein, because he's been really influential over the past couple of seasons. Another matchup I thought was pretty interesting is, of course, we've gone a bit short with Hardigan out of the team and just Cheney as our sort of third defender. How do you think he is going to go matching up on those big forwards, as well as being able to take guys like maybe Zeeble when he rotates into the forward line?
I'm thinking you might. We'll see a lot of third man up contests. Sort of help cover, I'd say, Lever and Cheney. Because I think I can see Waite outbodying Lever a couple of times during the game.
Yeah, and that was a bit of concern on the board too. A lot of people were saying that, Jared Waite could absolutely slaughter us if they isolate a matchup on him on Cheney or something like that. But a lot of the message that's been coming out of the coaching box throughout the preseason has been, we're getting better at peeling off, 2-on-1, turning 1-on-1s into 2-on-1s by guys like Cheney and Lever, as you mentioned, sort of coming out and spoiling stuff. And I think Cheney has been pretty solid through the preseason in that particular role and being able to help out the other guys, even though he's a little bit shorter than we'd probably like. What do you think, Phoenix?
Yeah, look, Cheney generally has played as the chop-out defender, and a lot of teams try to isolate Talia and get him out. So I would imagine that whoever the target is, you'll see a lot of double teaming like Mr. Misrick said. I think you'll find that Van Berlo and Cheney will be very much playing a floating, almost a zone type situation, and they will go to the target. And I think we'll see a lot of Talia getting led out of the play if they're trying to isolate a tall or play through Lever or play through Cheney, whoever takes the tall. So I think you'll see a team effort from Cheney and VB, and obviously Rory Laird chips in now and again too, and he's not bad for his height either. So I don't think we're going to... Looking at it one-on-one matchups is probably a little bit simplistic. I think it's going to be more a case of how we play as a back six or a back seven, because I think you'll see Brodie Smith drop back a little bit as well and play more as a defensive wingman. So I think that's how we'll play it.
Yeah, I see it the same way. A lot of that team defense coming in. So we've talked a little bit about the defenders. How about the midfield? I think a lot of people, especially in the media, are kind of writing us off because, we've lost Dangerfield. But on paper, we've got guys like Matt Crouch, Brad Crouch, Tomo, Sloan, Douglas, against guys like Wells, Del Santo, Cunnington, Swallow, and Zeeble. Who do we think is going to take the crown in this game in that respect?
Zeeble always worries me. I think he's a quality player, and if he gets a bit of momentum, he can do a lot of damage very quickly, particularly if he floats forward as well. I wouldn't mind betting that we play someone fairly close to him. The old cooler role, not a hard tag, but I think we'll man up on him fairly consistently. I reckon our inside strength is a little bit lacking compared to theirs. They've shown themselves to be a pretty good inside team. I think it'll be, again, a matter of our structures sitting off the contest a little bit and, getting first use out of the contested situations.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think, Mr. Guest?
Yeah, so I was... Sorry, I was a lot less concerned than others on the board, although our performance in the NAB challenge wasn't particularly amazing in terms of clearances and contested ball. But I think I'm wondering if there was a strong focus without talking about individuals, a more of a stronger focus on getting that uncontested ball, because we know that we can still bring the contested side. So we're working harder on bringing the uncontested side. So that way we're ready to go for round one, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that the coaches were probably thinking about. I mean, obviously we saw our uncontested numbers were really quite good over the preseason, and the contested numbers were a little bit lacking. So, I mean, guys like Rory Sloane throughout the NAB Challenge were, they were almost invisible. And of course, we didn't even see Brad Crouch at any stage. So I think, like you said, it's a little bit hard to gauge just how our contested ball and how our clearance work will actually go when guys like Sloane are up and firing, when we get Brad Crouch in there, and when we start actually executing whatever game plan Pikes come up with. So what do we think of, obviously we've got two debutants who've never played an AFL game before, Wayne Malira and Mitch McGovern. Do you guys think that they deserve their spot, and do you reckon they'll really be the difference between maybe us winning and losing?
I really like the selection of Mitch McGovern. I think he's earned his spot. And as a few have noticed on the boards, he provides us some flexibility. He can certainly give us some cover down back in the air. Then obviously he can pinch hit up forward as well. So I really like that selection. And I think Miller has basically forced the selectors' hands. I don't think you could drop him based on his performances over the NAB Cup. So good on him. Hope he gets a few minutes, and you could probably see him rotating with Rory and maybe chop out Eddie on occasion. So yeah, good luck to him. I reckon it's good, solid, positive selections there.
Oh, totally. I mean, both of those guys played really well during the NAB Challenge. I think I wasn't as keen on picking Mitch McGovern after his maybe NAB 1 and NAB 2 form, but he really showed what he has in NAB 3, and I think that was kind of the first time I've really seen him play to a standard where I think he can really add to our team. And yeah, I think he's really, really deserved his spot. And as some people on the board have been mentioning, he might be taking up that Charlie Cameron role, who's of course injured at the moment. What do you reckon, Mr. Mystery Guest?
Yeah, I just like the fact that they were prepared to take the chance with McGovern and a few more games and to like good consistent form that we've tuned in round one. It's just really nice to see. I thought it was interesting that he actually played NAB 3, so I think not sure how much the coaches were looking at him in terms of the round one before NAB 3, and how much Crouch and Atkins getting into trouble actually helped McGovern stay in the side. So I think thing. But yeah, it's really good to see the chance with McGovern. What Malira showed in NAB was too good to keep out of the side.
Yeah, I think it's probably also been a while since we've debuted two young guys in the opening round. It's really promising for the sort of youth and depth that we have at the moment. And yeah, great job on the recruiting team for getting those guys, Malira and McGovern, in. And yeah, we're finally seeing those guys play, which will be awesome. All right, I'm going to switch over a little bit now from our AFL team to the SANFL team just for a little bit, because we are absolutely stacked in the SANFL, and it's really hard to see with guys like, just going through the team, we've got Otten, we've got Henderson, Hardigan, Shaw, Kelly, Wigg, Grigg, Knight, Deere, Cameron, Ramsey, Loudon, Menzel, O'Brien, Lyons, Gore, Ellis Yeoman, Greenwood. It's just a huge list of AFL listed players that we've got in the side, and I think that we might have a really good chance of beating whoever we're playing. I'm not actually sure who we're playing, but we're playing West. Okay, yeah.
West,
so,
yes.
I think we're a good chance because that is a really solid looking SANFL team.
Strongest one we've put on the park, surely by a country mile. And again, it shows it's indicative of the depth. I mean, there's 4 or 5 blokes who could have easily been picked this week in the ones, and probably another half a dozen on the cusp. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you could see them absolutely slaughtering Westies, and Westies aren't a bad team.
Yeah, it just goes to show that we've got guys like, Knight and Cameron just coming back from injury who will probably in the next couple of weeks be pushing for selection. Henderson's back, and we saw him a lot last year. Wig has been really good through the practice matches. And we've got Menzel in there as our new recruit, who we know has a lot of talent there. So it's just it's a lot of talent in there. And with that injury list so short, we've just got Hampton, Duday, and Hunter on the injury list. I mean, it's looking really good for our SNFL team.
And certainly Hampton's fringe AFL as well. So
Yeah.
It's probably the most depth I've ever seen in our list, to be honest with you.
Yeah, especially after last year where we started with quite a few injuries to, guys who would end up going and being best 22, like Knight and Atkins were out for, quite extended times this time last year. And, with Burton coming back in the fitness department, he's done a really solid job. So, yeah, it's just great for our depth. What do you think, Mr. Mystery Guest?
Yeah, you've pretty much nailed it. I think, we had such a poor start last year because of those injuries to, I guess, second-tier players. And I think we lost 6 of our first 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the season, we came home with a wet sail. I think we had basically the reverse of that. So I think if we puts the side in a really strong position, with a full list, especially with, I guess, best 22 players in Knight and Cameron also helps. I don't think Hunter isn't playing this week, correct?
No, he's out with a rolled ankle, I think, just missing the one match. And same with Duday, he was kind of a borderline inclusion with his lingering knee issue.
Yeah. So I guess we'll avoid being too tall for this week. But that's probably the only weakness in at full strength. That's the only weakness in our NFL side, is that if all our tools are playing, then we look very top heavy.
Yeah, I was joking on the board about the 5 tool setup.
Yeah.
The guy I'm interested in seeing develop this year is Harry Deer. Obviously interrupted last year with, was it a shoulder, I think, and showed a few signs during the NAB Challenge Series, and could be a real player. And I'm really keen to see him develop over the first half of the year. And you never know, he might actually force his way into the side at some stage as well. I think he adds something.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think we saw a lot of good signs. I mean, he only played 2 matches in the SNFL last year, 2 or 3 matches, and yeah, we're going to now have so many forwards and a lot of pressure for spots. Who do you think is going to be the player from an SNFL team that's most likely to immediately push into the AFL team come next round?
I think Charlie Cameron, if he's fit, he's a first 22 player, and I think if he gets one under his belt and gets through without any trouble, he'd be the obvious one. Jared Lyons, depending on matchup, we got Port next week, so again another quick team, so you don't know whether he comes in, but I reckon Charlie Cameron's the one.
Put Knight down as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he was, like I said, best 22 last season. He really showed a lot. So, yeah, I definitely agree with those two. And I'm going to add in one of the guys who hasn't played a game for us yet, but I think will be good, and that's Troy Menzel. I think I harp on about him maybe a bit too much on the board, but I think he's going to be fantastic for us once he gets that fitness up. Not sure he'll be ready next round. I think he's still got a couple rounds to go, but hopefully we can see something from him this week playing in that forward wing role.
You just start to wonder where we're going to fit them all in up forward. It's amazing, really.
Yeah, creating a best 22 has been so difficult with thinking about a full-strength team, and there's just so many guys I want to cram on the bench and just can't fit because, we can only play 22 players. It's the first time really that in the past couple of seasons I think that's been a real struggle creating that best 22.
Yeah, it's really come down to a balance situation. You've got players that are probably deserve to be best 22 that just can't squeeze in simply because we're sport for choice in that position or in that area of the ground. Lions again springs to mind. Fantastic if we can keep a small injury list this year. It's fantastic competition for spots.
Yeah, okay. So we have got a couple more games throughout the round I think will be pretty interesting. Of course, at the moment, while we're live, Richmond versus Carlton's actually on, and it's a pretty close game with Richmond only leading by, I think it's 8 points at the moment. So we'll see how that match pans out, but that wasn't one of the games I thought would be particularly interesting. But I think probably the match of the round, aside from our match, is going to be Sydney versus Collingwood up at the SCG. Who do you think is going to win that one?
Well, I've tipped Collingwood. Travelled well, got through NAB 3 in a pretty positive fashion. I think Sydney are just going. Hard to tell, obviously, the impact of Buddy coming back in and whether he's right or whether he's going to need a couple of games. But I just think Collingwood's early season or pre-season form has been really good. They look to have some flexibility, and I reckon they'll get up.
I went Sydney. I think it's meant to rain in Sydney, so their strong midfield might help them there. Although Collingwood's midfield is pretty good, now adding Treloar as well. So I thought that was a difficult one to pick.
Yeah, I agree. I actually went with Phoenix this time round. I tipped Collingwood to win. And I think one of the things that really highlights to me about why I think Collingwood win is just Sydney's, some of the names that they've got in this team. I'm just looking at the lineup right now on afl.com.au, and they've got new players of Michael Talia, Callum Mills, Tom Papley, who honestly I've never heard of this player before, Callum Sinclair, and George Hewitt. And when you're talking about like who else they've got on their team, they don't have much run off halfback, and they've only got Franklin and Tippett up front. So yeah, I'm not sure they'll be able to take Collingwood on the road. The other match I think will be pretty interesting is the match that's actually straight after that one, although it is on Sunday, and that's Western Bulldogs versus Fremantle at Etihad Stadium. And I think I'll be tipping the Western Bulldogs in this one. How about you guys?
I went for Fremantle in this one.
Ooh.
I've seen a lot of people. So going the opposite again. I know that the Bulldogs are known to, it's their home deck, but I don't know. I actually can't even explain it really. Sometimes you just have a feeling. I just think Fremantle are going to win. I think with Fremantle's pressure, that might, if they can stop the Bulldogs' run, that'll give them a really good chance of winning. But same way, if the Bulldogs' run is too much and they can break through Fremantle's defence, then they'll win. So yeah, these are the two games I had a lot of trouble tipping for.
What about you, Phoenix?
Bullies for me. Home deck, obviously hard to beat. It might be the soft option on my behalf, tipping wise. But Fremantle didn't impress me terribly in our match against them. I think they're probably a week or two away from being really up to speed. I think a couple of their players are carrying a little niggles. And I think Bullies will hit the ground running this year. I wouldn't mind betting that the Bulldogs are top of the ladder after the first 4 or 5 rounds.
That's a big call.
Yeah, I really do. I think he made a good point on Tuesday night with regards to the impact that rotations are going to have on that team, given that they like to run. But I think they've got really good balance. And I think, they trouble every side at Etihad, and I don't think Freo will be quite up for it this week.
Yeah, and so a third game that I think probably isn't going to get as much attention as those two being kind of the premier games apart from ours is Melbourne versus GWS at the MCG. And to be honest, I know you were saying Sydney and Collingwood and Western Bulldogs and Freo were hard games to tip, but I am 50-50 split on who's going to win this game. I have no idea. And in the end, I tipped Melbourne, but I'm just not sure.
Yeah, I went Melbourne as well, and I agree 100% with you. It took me ages to come to a decision on that one, and like the deciding factor for me was nothing more than venue, really. I think the D's are playing okay. They obviously played well against Port at Elizabeth, at least, NAB Cup form, I know, but I think they'll go all right this year, to be honest. And I think for the first time in a while, there's a bit of spirit back in that club as well. I think the venue will get them over the line in the end.
Yeah, I've gone the opposite again.
Oh, come on.
I'm tipping the Giants. So
it's not too late to change.
You could either be a genius or like a hero or zero on Monday afternoon.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, yeah, this one was pretty difficult as well. I know that they're missing Cameron and McCarthy. I think they'll still have a strong chance of winning. I think and they've lost Treloar as well, but their midfield is going to be pretty strong pretty soon without him. I think Melbourne are still just that little bit off before they start climbing up the ladder. So I think GWS will just get over the top.
I reckon Cameron's a big out for them.
Yeah, I agree. He's a huge out. But look, I hope I get all my tips right, and I hope that I'm a little bit ahead of you on the Crows tipping ladder on the Big Footy board, which I recommend that you guys join if you're listening and you haven't done that already. I think there's prizes or something by the whole Big Footy site. If you haven't signed up, I think you can win money or whatever if you tip the highest of anyone. But yeah, I'm going for the chocolates this time. I want to show up drugs in the tipping comp, and hopefully I'll beat you as well, Mr. Mystery Guest, because we've disagreed on everything so far.
I decided to put a bet on this weekend, and I tipped all those teams in my multi-bet, so hopefully it works.
This is tearing me apart now, because I want you to win money because you're on the CrowCast, but I want me to win all the tips so I can get ahead of everyone.
I did put on two. So in one version I had Collingwood winning, and in another version I had Sydney winning. So there's a chance for both.
All right. Well,
I'll tell you what's an attractive bet, and that's Crows 40 plus at $11.
I think we'll be hard pressed to do 40 plus against North.
I don't know. We did last year.
Yeah, different venue though. That said, I'm close to tipping North, but I think I just think we'll sneak in a close one for me against North this round. What do you think, Mr. Mystery Guest? Final tip for our game?
I'm thinking us by 2 goals.
Okay, pretty narrow margin. Hopefully it'll be a close one. And so that brings us kind of to the end of the CrowCast preview, the first one. A couple of cobwebs to brush off there. A couple of nerves for the first time hosting from me.
Good job, mate.
Yeah, hopefully you guys tune in next week when we'll be back live at 7:30 p.m. Adelaide time on Thursday. You can find all the links and stuff on our social media pages at BF CrowCast on Twitter and also BF CrowCast on Facebook. The links will go up there when everything's live, and of course you can catch the recordings on Spreaker and RSS feeds and hopefully iTunes in the near future. for catching
Yep.
up a little bit later.
Just waiting on the authorization for all the whatever it is from iTunes. Can take a while. And also, obviously, don't forget me, Nikki, and Hank are going to be dissecting everything on Sunday evening at, what time was it? 7 o'clock, I think, Adelaide time. So, tune in there as well. We'll pull everything apart and hopefully we'll be happy.
Yeah, hopefully that cast goes well, and hopefully we're a little bit happy coming off a win. And yeah, so I think hopefully next week we won't have a Thursday night match to compete against with our live audience. But like I said, catch us again next week. Oh, and don't forget, if you haven't already joined the goal kicking game on the Big Footy board, get in your goal kicker before round one starts. Otherwise, you won't be able to compete in that little ridiculous competition that we've got going on there for bragging rights. So head over to the bigfooty.com and get into, I think it's Adelaide Fan 16 goal kicking competition. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, that wraps us up for CrowCast Preview Episode 1. Hope you guys tune in next week, and thanks for listening.
Good on you, mate. Thank you. See you guys.
See ya. Just quickly,